Ian, welcome to the Easy Conversations podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to have you on and talk about your story today and share that with the audience. We've had the opportunity to connect, and I really see a lot of inspiration in your story, and I can understand why you want to share it with people. And then you have some ties to Canada as well, which is great. So I'm sure you can talk about that a little bit. But yeah, before we get into your story, I do want to give you an opportunity to share with the listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what's brought you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and it's great to see you again. A little bit about me: I was actually born in New Westminster back in beautiful 1972,
Yeah.
and then plumped over to this side of the border. I had my first drink at the age of 1 in Bellingham. From there, it moved on to being a bartender at the age of 13 and hosting some of my parents' parties. Pretty good athlete in high school, and I found booze as my superpower in business and building relationships and networking, and got really clouded. 2 failed marriages, 3 amazing kids, pretty intense rehab, and 7.5 years sober. Wrote a book about it to try to make a difference on other people that,
Mhm.
could be a better dad, better mom, better business owner, better friend, and just share my story and be completely naked with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And why is it important for you to share your story?
One is the damage and devastation that now that I can be clear headed and look behind of like, I could have been such a better father. I could have been such a better business owner. I could have been such a better friend. I could have been better to myself for my health and longevity. So just with that was kind of like, man, if I could go make somebody evaluate their situation, and I'm lucky enough that I came out on the other end, right? Something catastrophic didn't happen
Yeah.
or whatever. So that is a big driving motivational force for me, and it makes me feel really good to make an impact on people.
Mhm.
And I've silently done it just with my journey of my circle and my friends and my kids, and with the social media in the book is it's quite powerful actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And when you kind of hear it, one immediately wonders, I know I do, how does one have a drink at the age of one and then want to then get into the bartending gig at the age of 13? So,
Yeah, and in that generation of like 72 was kind of like, you bounced around in the back of a car with no car seats and the windows rolled up and your parents are smoking. It's probably cute, or it was hot out in Bellingham in the summer, and my dad's, it's in the book. There's a great picture of it of me sipping on a Coors beer at 1. I had no clue. Um, but today's society, that'd be like, oh my goodness, you should go to jail for that. That's
yeah.
criminal. And I remember being at a Shakey's Pizza in Bellingham and like sipping those ice cold mugs that, we all loved when we were drinking. They're just frosty. Well, I'd be 6, 7 years old and I'd sip the foam off the beer. I did that 3 too many times at this one Shakey's and got my whole family kicked out. So that was pretty damaging to my ego of just trying to sip beer. So I just got lots of stories like that just stacked over
Yeah.
35 years.
For sure. And then, yeah, and I can appreciate the whole things were different in that era. So you kind of make that case even for you working at such a young age in a bar. But how do you do that? Like, how are you serving people? But because the legal age was still 18, right? Or I guess you were in the US at that time. So 20.
Yeah, I also, it all started with I was working as a dishwasher at a double wide in Southern California. It's called the Salton Sea. It's 50 miles south of Palm Springs, middle of nowhere. And we moved there when I was like 12 years old. And I went and got a job because we're very poor. So to supplement some income, I worked at this place called Johnson's Landing, and it was just this cute little bar. But when the bartenders got busy, they'd be like, "Hey, could you pour a Coors Light or a Bud Light?" So it really wasn't that big a deal back then. I'm sure there definitely was not alcohol enforcement out in the middle of nowhere where I was.
Right.
So I thought they thought they were probably pretty safe.
Yeah.
And then my parents were pretty much social alcoholics and partied often of potlucks. And I was like, man, if I served, if like dressed up a little and I'd go around and I'd make people drinks at the age of 12, 13, 14 and be like, oh, your son's so cute. He said, and I think that's where I learned my service levels. That's why I'm so good at it.
Yeah.
So there is probably some good that came out of that. So then I was just serving at my parents' parties and people would tip me and I was making money and I could remember people's drinks and I was mixing vodka sodas and rum and cokes and, Jack on the rocks and got pretty darn good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, again, like you said, it became your superpower. And one of the things you talked about was college life, right? Like how did this early exposure to alcohol influence your college life? Because a lot of people really drink a lot in college, in their college years, and you're already going in having a lot of experience. So how did that affect you, and what was that like for you? Those,
I
especially with
really wasn't a big drinker
yeah,
in high school. I dabbled in it a little, but I went
yeah,
to vocational school in San Diego, but I was around it so much. Then it was kind of like freedom, and wow, I could go all in on this. And it just wasn't like have one or two. It was like, hey, let's go get full throttled and see how hammered we could get with Big Mouth Mickey's and my Canadian roots of Molson. Man, I just went full throttle. And then I realized that I could be in bars and those socially accepted drinking environments of how much I could network with people,
mhm,
because it's such a common ground and you get a good buzz and you like have no feelings and you can talk to girls and you can talk to guys and you can talk to established business owners sipping on their martinis. Because I was just numb with booze and I was like, man, I could network my
mhm.
face off in this environment. So that's where it really got ramped up for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And so many people struggle with this notion, especially in the business world, where you'll hear people saying, well, I have to entertain my clients, or I have to go out and talk to them and network and close business deals and get things done. And majority of that, I mean, I know I'm speaking here like in a stereotype, but a lot of times it does happen on golf courses, and often alcohol is involved, or at bars, and a lot of conversations are taking place because it takes the edge off and the inhibitions are low. But what are what would you offer to people that are struggling to make sense of that and trying to navigate it and know that, okay, like I don't really want to indulge, but I feel this pressure to indulge in order to fit in, or even like, I think sometimes it can be intimidating when you're sitting there not the only one not drinking, and then even other people look at you as if you're weird, right? So what would you offer to some younger people who are now going into the business world and trying to find their place?
And I think there's a pendulum shift in our society that a lot more people are getting super sober curious.
Yes.
But for me in those bar environments, and I'm 7.5 years now, so I'm good in them. But I'll do soda water and a lime, which looks like a vodka soda. And there's so many non-alcoholic beverages today than when there was in my drinking days. I mean,
Yes.
everybody has a non-alcoholic beer these days, from Corona to Molson's to Labatt's to Bud Light. Everybody has a non-alcoholic beer. So if you feel that, or you're going to feel the pressure that you're going to get looked at, you can go those avenues, right? You can put a non-alcoholic beer in a glass and it looks like a beer. You can have a soda water with a lime and it looks like it's a vodka soda. Nobody's really going to challenge you in those environments if that's what you're concerned about. I still drink soda water. People don't even ask if I'm drinking people that I don't know, just because I it fits right in that environment. But if you struggle with those being in those environments and feel the necessity to drink, obviously don't go, right? Your mindset is not ready for those environments and those social events. But if you're strong enough to not drink and challenge yourself to go, hey, I'm going to go into this environment and I'm going to challenge myself, because you got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable, right?
Right.
And get in your mindset, okay, I'm going to have soda waters, or I'm going to have, Heineken zeros and fit in and nobody's going to say anything. I'm going to pour it in a glass and like see how people react.
Mhm.
And it's okay. Like I enjoy when people ask me like, hey, you don't drink? How come? There's always a story, right?
Yes.
And now I'm comfortable enough to go, what are you masking? Why are you drinking? I
Yeah.
mean, I can do that now. At first, I was like, ooh, I don't know how to answer that because I had two failed marriages and I couldn't handle it. And I thought I was the life of the party. So I had to quit.
Yeah.
And then some people are like, ooh, I really didn't need to ask that.
Yeah.
But you can also ask it back to them of like, what are you masking and shielding? Because now I've gone through so much therapy. I'm like, I know why you're drinking,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So it's just a
For
different
sure.
mindset for sure.
Yeah, well, and I agree. I think that comes to your point. A lot of the times it comes through personal exploration and going for therapy, or just experience over time where you have the awareness that often it is acting as a mask for sure. But if you're early in your career or trying to find your place, again, it can be tough, right? And sometimes I've heard stories where people will go in with like, I'm not going to have any, and then they'll have one or two, and then it, things fall off, right? The tracks. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
the struggle, right? So I do want to come back to the exposure piece, but I do, before we do that, I want to hear or at least give you an opportunity around talking about your recovery and some of the work you had to do to get off the alcohol and get to that place of sobriety.
Yeah, I used to be that one to be like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go have 1 or 2," and then it would be 22, and then I'd come home with a whole entourage of people and a party and cases of wine and beer with me and be like, "What is going on here? I thought you were just gonna have 1 or 2. Now we have a full-blown party at the house."
Yeah.
So I know that feeling well, and I couldn't kick it. I couldn't do 1 or 2. It just wasn't in my DNA. It's like, if I'm having 1, why don't we have 21?
Yeah.
So the intense therapy that I went through, October 2017, they call it aversion therapy, to where they actually give you Epicac and they induce vomiting. So you take some Epicac, you don't feel really good after about 4 or 5 minutes, you feel super woozy. And then this nurse, we call them bartenders, they would come and like give you a shot of vodka, swish it around in your mouth, spit it out. And here's some rum, swish it around. Here's some Baileys. And they'd get you to try to have 18 shots. And you just, at that point, you can't even keep it down. So then you're just violently vomiting.
Yeah.
And that was 10 days of therapy, 5 days of sitting with the nurses, bartenders, throwing up in a deal. And that was just part of it. Booze is just the mask. And there's so much more after that that I had to learn. And I had to sit in my dirty diaper and feel feelings that I was just
Yeah.
masking or numbing with alcohol. And we all have issues. And unless you sit with them, face them, address them, recognize them, you'll never deal with them. Like, I know people in their 70s, 80s that still haven't dealt with stuff, but they drink through it and they numb it and they're okay. So for me, it was a lot of, I got a life coach, which Angie is phenomenal. Um, holds you accountable. My circle used to be ginormous, and now my circle is my core four.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like the old saying of like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
I just had this conversation with somebody today asking me about, hey, I really need to slow down and I want to quit. And I'd be like, their circle is their problem.
Mhm.
They got to get out of their circle to fix their problem. So for me, it was a lot of just mindfulness and forgiving myself and believing in myself and creating myself, which I still do. I think it's an ongoing, I don't think it
Mhm.
ever ends. So for me, that's been a big piece of my journey. Yeah, the quitting drinking and that virgin therapy was tough, but then the real part is, once you get, I was so clouded, and I
Mhm.
relate drinking was like I was in the fast lane
Yes.
with the emergency brake on and really foggy.
Mhm.
And now, no emergency brake, skies are clear. Now you got to deal with your emotions and feelings and be like, I had a lot of forgiveness that I had to do. And for me, I did that a lot with writing, helped me
Yeah,
a lot.
for sure. Yeah, and it's important. I do want to talk about the aversion therapy because I think it can be very helpful for a lot of people to understand because there's so many people who struggle to stop, right? They have all the intentions, they're doing all the work, they're looking at their emotions and their feelings, which is something we'll come back to as well. But how does the aversion therapy help? Like, because I'm wondering to, in your case, as much as you've developed this aversion, the mindset piece is almost complementary to that, right? Because you have to get to the point of, I know this isn't good for me. There's a level of discipline involved, and it's like, I don't want this, whether or not it makes me sick, right? So, but what I'm hearing from you is the aversion at least got you to a baseline of getting that clarity because that constant drinking was not even allowing you to think properly and look at things from a realistic perspective.
For sure. And I think a lot of people ask me about rock bottom,
Mm.
right? Um, Something happened. You went to jail, a DUI, heaven forbid you hurt somebody, and it kind of like shocks your system and go, oh man, now I need to do something because that was horribly bad. And it like shocks your system. And for me, I was like, I don't know if I had a rock bottom. I had all the signs of a rock bottom and all these red flags going off. And the aversion therapy piece was like, I guess that was rock bottom and it was horrible and it sucked. But again, it's the mindset is like, I have a lot of people ask me about that are so sober curious and they want to quit drinking, but they're not ready, right? Until you look in the mirror and go, I am done. I am
Mhm.
ready. And I know that. And I'm sure you've been around enough people that you're like, oh, I know they are finally ready. So you really have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, do you want a better life? Do you want to be a better dad? Do you want to be a better mom? You want to be a better business owner and better yourself. You really got to look in the mirror. And those people that look in the mirror and go, you know what, I'm done with this because nothing good has came out of it. And I
Mhm.
challenge people to go, what good is coming out of drinking? Like I used to be able to justify all those questions and be like, well, I built my business, I did this, and like, no, you know how many relationships I destroyed, how much bigger my business would have been
Mhm.
if I didn't have clouded by booze and have that addiction would have been insanely different.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm lucky enough. I caught it at a young enough age that I still got a lot in me to grow and build and make an impact. My whole vision in life and my why is drastically changed from business to impact driven. Like,
Yeah.
how can I go make an impact?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's amazing that you're there now. But there was that mindset shift that was needed after you got some clarity and you were able to get some separation from alcohol through the aversion therapy. And one of the things you touched on, like very early, you connected some dots where you thought alcohol goes with acceptance. And that was kind of the narrative that was playing out. So how were you able to bring that to the forefront and work through that piece? And like you said, sit in all the discomfort of the emotions because you no longer had the ability to, well, I mean, it was partly a choice too, but to escape from those things anymore. And you really had to face them. How was that process? And how were you able to look at, well, yeah, I don't need conditional acceptance.
Yeah, and that's a lot when you look in the mirror too.
Yeah.
And I think it's so tough with our kids these days too with social media, and it's way different than when we were kids, right? I mean, we just didn't have that. But we've always had that pressure of being socially acceptable, and alcohol is so socially acceptable. It's insane.
Mhm.
And when you're the oddball out, it's a little awkward for sure.
Yeah.
It's really just you gotta be comfortable in your own skin and really look in the mirror of like, I'm trying to be better every single day. And to get sucked into that group of like, if you're looked at negatively because you're not drinking, I promise you, you are in the wrong group.
Mhm.
And take yourself out of that environment if that's what you feel and what you're getting heard
Yeah.
about.
Right.
And I feel the shift happening. I'm not sure what it's like up in Canada, but there is a shift in how people are viewing that, how people are viewing alcohol. And people now are turning to me like, how'd you do that? How'd you lose 80 pounds and you got in shape? And like, what are you doing? So people are more curious about me not drinking than me not drinking with them. But you have to, it's uncomfortable. And I talk about a lot. You got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. So it is uncomfortable sitting in those environments, fielding those questions, but it'll help you evaluate your journey
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because one, you're going to get really good at answering those questions and you're going to feel feelings that you probably were numbed before and be like, why do I give a shit about what this person thinks about me? I don't even know them. So
Mhm.
why would I even value their opinion? And those light bulbs start going off in your head to where you feel like, I feel pretty comfortable answering those questions. And it's like relearning and re-educating your mindset in those environments from being the life of the party to being that person to be like, why aren't you drinking? That's goofy. Here's a shot, right? I mean, I was a great pusher. Even people that weren't drinking, I'd buy them shots and I'd see them hand them off to other people because they weren't drinking. I'm that person now. I'd be like, yeah, here's a shot. I'll just pass it on. It's like I'm totally different mindset and just changing that environment. And it's fun, man. It's such a brand new life.
Yeah.
Being sober and clear-headed in relationships is insanely great.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess one of the things like when I'm working in recovery circles, we talk about vulnerabilities around exposure, right? And as you're sharing, you could still go to the bar now and feel comfortable and confident in your choices. But did you have to work your way up to that, or are you often worried about the exposure? And I guess everyone's different, but some people really struggle with the exposure, right? And that's part of what you're saying is you often have to change your social circle, where a lot of the times, people they connect in a bar or they go out and that's where they hang out. So sometimes it's finding that happy medium for yourself, knowing that how you respond to that exposure as well.
Yeah, and in my industry of work, we do so many conferences, and I was always, multiple conferences, 6, 7 a year in different locations in the world. And I was the guy. I was the life of the party. Oh, Ian, we're gonna go next level. We're gonna go to a bar. We're gonna go buy bottles of wine off the shelf and go. The bar's closed. Go sit outside. Like I was that guy. I would always keep the party going, and I'm around those people I do business with and associates in the hundreds of them. And I still go to those events. And so it was a tough first year of like, what do you mean you're not drinking? Like I would have to, and I got really good at telling my story of why not. I got more and more comfortable telling that story because they're like, why aren't you drinking? You used to be the life of the party, but oh,
Yeah.
hey, by the way, how do you lose 50 pounds already? So it would get turned pretty quick because I transformed my body just by not drinking and eating like a madman at night and hungover, having 4,000 calories of tacos in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's uncomfortable. But I mastered that story, and I just had the mindset of I'm going to be better every day. And I kind of over time that noise of other people just dissipated. I didn't hear it anymore because my story was so dialed in.
Mhm.
But it does take time and it is uncomfortable, and you will learn your story or whatever your story is in those environments. But I'd be shocked that people don't start turning the cards, looking at you, going, "How'd you do that?" And I sure would like to be that way. I'd sure like to slow down drinking. I sure would like to get in a little better shape. So I feel that shift happening.
Yeah. And do you often, I guess the question would be, how do you stay honest with yourself around vulnerabilities? And do you notice sometimes maybe the mind can wander or there's temptations and urges? And how do you deal with those thoughts when they arise?
Yeah, I mean, we all have these chatterbox, right? We have one that's sitting over here, like, "Oh my God, you're doing awesome, you're great," and this one be like, "Hey, you were way more fun when you were fat, and you're kind of boring now." Like, we all have those chatterboxes, and deal with them today. There's sometimes I'd be like, "Man, it'd sure be nice. I could sit there and have a sip of wine," and it instantly goes away for me because I know the ramifications of it. Like, one, I don't want to go back to zero.
Yeah.
I don't want to disappoint myself. There's so much that I had so many regrets when I drank. From I'd wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta apologize to that person. Oh shoot. Oh man, did I really say that? No, I didn't." And I'd have to go apologize. I wake up with zero regrets. And it is the best feeling in the world to go out to a bar and go have fun and laugh and have a good time, wake up early, feel like $1,000,000 while everybody else is super hungover going, "Oh my God, what did I say?" And I witnessed like that was a little aggressive, but that reminds me of me because I used to say stupid shit like that too.
Yeah.
I don't have those anymore. And it's so refreshing to
Mhm.
not have those regrets. And it's that when those thoughts do enter, it's kind of like, man, do you really want to go backwards? And do you feel really good? Like, why would you set yourself to go to zero again?
Mhm.
That is just a challenge to me of like, I absolutely have those thoughts often of like, sure, what would it be like to have a drink? Sure, it'd be nice to have a nice glass of wine and a steak dinner. But I know I'm going to go back to zero. I'm going to have the biggest regret of my life. And I just don't want to deal with that.
Mhm.
So you do have those chatterboxes. And again, it goes back to your circle
Yes.
of like, I can call somebody, anyone in my circle, and be like, "Man, I was having crazy thoughts about having a glass of wine." And they would talk me completely off the shelf. And they would go through my whole story and reiterate it to myself. And I'd be like, "You know what? I love you. Thank you for reminding me. I'm good."
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really crucial point to have people in your life that are supporting your recovery. And that could take time to build too, right? To find people
For
like that.
sure.
But absolutely. That's a very important. distinction there. The other thing when you're talking about chatterboxes and coming back to exposure, there's another thing we talk about is you can go out and not drink. And now that's like the second worst outcome because now you could get super confident on your abilities saying, hey, I was able to go out and not drink, feeling pretty good. But there's a aspect of humility there that you have to be honest with yourself and listen to that chatterbox as you're sharing, not to get too high on yourself and recognize that you're still one drink away from falling back. And what is that journey like?
Yeah, that's a great question. You always got to be checking yourself, right? You can get overconfidence, and we see it in athletes, but it's really when there's an addiction, whether it be drugs or alcohol, it is you're one step away, you're one relationship away, you're seconds away from life changing again. And it's just that mindset and to humble yourself of like, look how far I've came, or I just started and I'm 6 days in, I'm 6 years in. I don't care what that is. You started and you made that mindset. And there's that mindset shift that's sitting in there that you got to remind yourself, am I willing to sacrifice all that for this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the answer is always no, it's not worth it. It's not worth going backwards because I promise you, you will have regret the next morning. You will be in complete loneliness because there's nothing worse than coming off and be like, man, I'm now back to zero. You are sitting by yourself in your own dirty diaper, having to deal with all those feelings and regrets that you just had. It ain't worth it.
Mhm.
So you have to remind yourself and be humble of, hey, I'm going to go out, not drink, and I'm going to have some thoughts and feelings to drink, but I'm going to battle those. Like that's my win. This today is my win is going to overcome my thoughts in this bar. I'm going to go have fun, but if those thoughts come up, I'm winning
Mhm.
and battle them down. Some people in some of these sessions that I sit in, people actually say it out loud. It was like, stop. Like they're telling their thoughts, like, stop it. This
Mhm.
ain't happening. And they say it out loud to have the physiology of it. But whatever works for you, be humble and remember where you came from and where you're trying to go. And don't reset to zero.
For sure. And there is, again, an understanding that relapses do happen for people. And as you're sharing, that can be shame inducing. And then people get very discouraged or they start telling themselves, I can't do this. This isn't for me. And then they often put other people who are sober on a pedestal and they say, you know what, this person's got it figured out. I can never be like this person. Again, that shame, I think a lot of it you were touching on, the shame started early for you. So, what
Mhm.
message do you have for people that even though they may have the relapse, they can still start again their recovery and build today's day one, not to stay stuck in the shame, but rather look at it as an opportunity to work through it again.
For sure. It's like yesterday's gone.
Yeah.
None of us can go get it back. I don't care who you are, what celebrity you or somebody you idol, The Rock. I don't care who it is. Hockey players, they can't get tomorrow back, nor can we. So move on. We have the future to look forward to. We have today, right now. When your eyes pop open, we have right now, and you have that decision to move forward. Or you can sit there and regret and blah blah blah. You ain't gonna change what happened, so get
Mhm.
over it. Nothing that happened yesterday. We can go change.
Mhm.
The thing we can change is right now. What can we do right now? And if you can just live in those compartmental days of like, yep, that sucks. I have a lot of regret and I'm super shameful, but today's a new day. And I didn't like that feeling yesterday. So I don't want to have that feeling that I had. So what am I going to do today to not feel that? And
Yeah.
whatever that is, whatever that discipline is for you or circle that you're in that will support you and
Mhm.
take each 24 hours as 24 hours,
Mhm.
right? Because we can't go 48 hours ahead. We got to live right now. We got to be so present in the moment. And I was so clouded by that with alcohol. And even a couple years ago, the word present is so powerful to me today
Yeah.
of like being in the moment. Like we have right now. That's like really all we have right now. The next hour isn't, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We can't go back and change what happened an hour ago.
Mhm.
So why don't we be present with what we have right now is so amazing. So if you can get in that mindset of like, right now, I don't care about yesterday. Yep, that sucked. Yep, I relapsed. Yep, I felt really bad, but I'm going to feel great today. I'm going to win today and stack those baby wins again.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And you talked about how this lifestyle change has improved your relationships. So how are the relationships you have with your kids now? Obviously going through your journey of two failed marriages and all of that. And sometimes that requires a lot of, as you've already shared, you took a lot of accountability, but that can be tough, right? And some relationships are tough to repair because the pain is so severe or the damage was so bad that it's hard for people sometimes to get over. But how have you been able to navigate all of that, especially in the relationships you have with your children?
Kids catch more than you teach.
Mhm.
And for me, I was the party animal dad, and I got my kids write stories in the book, and they're pretty tearful. And then my daughter's like, "You, I didn't know what kind of dad I was going to get on. Was it going to get angry dad, sad dad, mad dad, party dad? I had no clue what was going to happen." And then I was a life of the party for my oldest son because they were in high school and college, and we would drink and do shots and barbecue multiple times. And so those relationships today, I think they've seen so much change in their dad and how present I am with them. And when we go out for coffees or dinners or we have family barbecues, that, I was a dad that was there. I thought I was there,
Yeah.
right? Because my physical being was there. I'd be like, hey, kids, go upstairs, watch a movie or whatever. Here's some pizza. So they were in my house, but was I present? No. So that word present to me is super powerful.
Mhm.
And those relationships, right in the book, I think my kids see the transition of my mindset more than me asking for forgiveness because I really had to forgive myself. It's kind of like I go back to like going out partying in a bar, saying some rude shit to your friends or whoever. And then the next day you go, hey, I'm really sorry about that. And what do they all say? Oh, it's okay.
Right.
Right. Everybody goes through that experience. So you really have to look in the mirror and go, man, I forgive myself for saying all that rude stuff and
Mhm.
really resonate with you. Like, I am so sorry that one, I put myself in that situation and those words even came out of my mouth to offend that person. Because there's one thing, our words are so powerful. There's some words that people will never unhear. And I know
Yeah.
I've said some crazy stuff to people that they will never, ever unhear.
Mhm.
So those words are so powerful, but you have to also look in yourself and be like, I'm transforming myself. I'm trying to be a better person. I'm quitting alcohol because I knew alcohol wasn't good for me. I don't want to be that person. This is the person I want to be.
Right.
And if you really get into that mindset, your relationships will be like, they see it. They see
Mhm.
that. I think actions exceed words in anything, relationships, booze, alcohol, business. Show me your actions.
Mhm.
And you don't even need to say words because I'm seeing this transformation happen.
Right.
And I think my kids are so proud of me in the impact, like my mind shift of like, man, I want to go make an impact on people to where I was like, I want to go make an impact on my business to where that whole mindset has changed. And I think my kids that feel that and my kids are so proud of that. And they hear some of these calls that I'm on and some of the podcasts and my book launch and the power of making an impact on people is changing their mindsets.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, like I said, that's amazing. So here you are now and you're inspiring others and working with others. How has that journey been for you in terms of
Man,
empowering?
it so warms my heart
Yeah.
to share my devastation and dysfunction to help somebody else either come out of it or prevent it. It absolutely drives me and warms my soul to sit on a podcast with you and to get to know you and the relationship we'll have for future going on of doing these is and knowing that you're making an impact. It's like, man, there's this community of people that we're taking our complete dysfunction and trying to go be better. We're
Yeah.
trying to be better ourselves every day, but more importantly, get people around us that are sober curious or some sort of addiction to be better is, man, it's just heartwarming.
Mhm. Do you often struggle with outcomes? Like it's easy to fall into that trap that, I'm trying to make a change here and I want these specific outcomes to come about because it can motivate you, but then often we get attached to the outcome and then feel discouraged at times that, hey, what am I even doing here? Am I the right person to be doing this? Am I in the right place? And shouldn't I just be back in the business world where I was succeeding and I knew what I was doing? Do you go through those
Yeah, that's
thoughts?
that. Yeah, that's a great one. And I talk a little bit about that in my book because in 2016, I sold my business to the company that I work for today. And man, I went into the deepest, darkest depression and drinking of like, it was over. There was the end. Like, now what? Made
Mhm.
millions of dollars, kids got cars, houses, travel. Like, it's over. And for this side of the journey, it's about the journey. I don't want it to end. I don't want an end. And whether I resonate with some people and some I don't, man, for me, it's the journey of learning the whole process because the journey ain't over until my soul is taken. And I used to always have ends and like targets and goals. And I'm not saying those aren't bad in the business world and physical, whatever you're trying to do, like there's still goals in my life, don't get me wrong. But man, I enjoy the journey
Mhm.
so much more today than I did building my business in a drunken oblivion.
Yeah.
Like the journey is so I don't want that to end. I don't want making an impact on people to end. So I don't have an end to that. And sure, I'm going to have hiccups and bumps in the road. Not everybody's going to resonate with my story, and that's completely okay. But I meet so many people and I learn so much from people that I enjoy that journey to where before I was like, step aside, where's the end? So if I could say anything to anybody is like, man, enjoy your journey
Yes.
because you're going to have ebbs and flows. It's going to zigzag. It's not going to be a straight line to A and B and then it ends because you're going to realize that it was all getting to the end was the fun part. For me, it was like catastrophic, like money in the bank. I remember I was in Vegas. I can remember like I get chills talking about. And I look at my bank app and be like, yep, it happened, boys. Let's celebrate. We're at Caesars in a cabana, and I got super wasted and overwhelmed for 2 weeks of, well, now what? It's over. Now, granted, I still had a job at the company that bought me, but it was like, I built this thing and now it's over. I handed it over. And that was really tough for me.
Yeah.
And now it's all about let's enjoy the journey along the way.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing from you is you were able to partially through direct actions from yourself, but navigate those situations and find true purpose in your life. And that's what you're doing now. And this whole experience that you've gone through has allowed you to find meaning in all of it. And that's what you're continuing to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's my business associates still, man, just the influence you have silently with people. And I'm sure you in your group and the people you impact is that ripple effect becomes pretty huge once they see what you're doing and what you're trying to do is like you get this posse behind you and you get more and more people that are curious about this journey and they want to get into that circle that you have or they want to how can I make an impact. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. And how's the process of making amends been? Like, are you still doing that or have you kind of, you feel like you've
Yeah,
freed
I
your way?
think all my amends were with me.
Yeah.
And I think there's again, I still have a life coach and very accountable or, therapist. People don't
Yeah.
like the word therapist because it was like whatever. But I look at it too when people are like, oh, you have a therapist or a life coach. What's wrong? Nothing. Because I take the NHL or NFL or golf players, they all have coaches. Not only do they have swing coaches, they have mental coaches, they have physical coaches, they have nutritionists. Like they're trying to be better at their craft. My craft is me. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to be better. So I have a coach because it's really tough to do it on your own.
Mhm.
And granted, I got a good circle, but Angie still holds me accountable. And I just did every Wednesday morning, we have a call and it's accountable and action driven. And stories, challenges. What could I do to help? It's great to have that person
Yeah,
in your life.
for sure.
So for me, I had to really forgive myself and really work on myself. And I think my actions just spoke for themselves instead of me going out there
Yeah,
asking forgiveness of people.
for sure. No,
And
that's
some of those people, I really didn't care about their forgiveness. They
right.
were in my circle because I drank and I partied and I funded. So there are those people too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's beautifully said. Ian, thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your story vulnerably. I know that's part of your journey, obviously, but still, I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to speak to one's past mistakes. And obviously, you wouldn't be here today if you hadn't gone through those experiences. But I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this. And for listeners that want to learn more about your work and your journey, how can they find you online and your book as well? Where can they find it?
You can find my book on Amazon. It's called Wild Ride to Sobriety. And then if you look at any of the social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, it's just my name, Ian Fee, and I'll probably pop up and you'll probably see my book right there.
All right.
I can't
Well,
thank you enough for having me. Keep doing what you're doing because you're doing amazing work. And I love it that you're from my home country. So I super appreciate you having me.
yeah, yeah, no, feelings mutual. Thank you so much for that, Ian. And we'll definitely put everything in the show notes, but appreciate you coming on and good luck with your continued efforts in this space of inspiring others and showing them that there is a way out.
And you as well. I appreciate it. Thank you.